Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
Hi, I'm Larry.
Hi, I'm Jesi.
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Josh. And Jesse, having visited here, have you visited Zach yet?
Actually, I haven't. Because last time it was raining, there was a huge downpour, so I didn't get to visit him. But maybe we can go after our discussion.
Yes, after the discussion.
And I was not in the corner screaming for my mother.
And maybe play with cats.
I do love kitties.
Play with cats.
I do love kitties.
For now, we have enough time to talk about a short story. During the draft, Larry picked 3 short stories, all from the same writer. That writer is Flannery O'Connor.
My hero.
Here is my collection of the complete stories of Flannery O'Connor, and we are going to be talking about probably the one that people know her most for, and that is A Good Man is Hard to Find.
Well, it is true. I mean, I can't be everywhere. Yay, laughter!
That was a good one.
You have a discussion starter, Larry?
Let's talk about the character of the misfit, and what do you think is going on with him? What do you think O'Connor's trying to get across with it?
Somebody who was on a pretty good track, but then he went to penitentiary while he was there, he lost faith. He got out, and he pretty much turned into a criminal on the run.
Prison, I'm going to start off right off the bat and say, prison can change people. There were so many, I'm not going to say anything else on that, but all I want to say is, there are times prison can change people.
And it can change people for
better
good or
worse.
worse.
Yes, and that's what I was going at. It can change you for the worse.
And I feel like
most
with
of the
this
time.
character, he was changed for the worse.
Yes.
Like you said, he lost his faith, and I feel like that's kind of what the grandmother needed to be presented with in order to stop being so terrible. I didn't like her. I mean, I know she's not necessarily
She was
supposed
very,
to be a likable character.
vain.
Yeah,
And
I don't know.
I thought that
No,
she,
nobody. I don't think there's much likability in this.
Yeah,
I think this is the second story out of the 2 stories that I've read from Flannery O'Connor where I really wasn't fond of any of the characters. At least in Good Country People, the one character, Joy or Holga, was at least somebody that you felt a slight sense of sympathy for. You have a crotchety, vain grandma. You have 2 bratty kids.
Hey, Mommy!
You have the father's a bit a downer.
Yeah, he just seems like he's just ornery and miserable.
Yeah,
and
the mother's
the
mother's
uninvolved.
Yeah, she's one dimension. She's pretty. Yeah, she's more she's so one dimensional that makes a stick figure look like it belongs in the Twilight Zone. Probably the one. I guess the one.
That was very deep.
Family member I have sympathy for is the baby.
That poor baby.
Now, this is just me being a complete total nutcase, but is Chris on the father again? Or is he just... Because I kept...
Bailey's the father.
Bailey's the father.
Yeah.
That's what I kept getting confused about. I don't know why. Usually I know my characters very well.
But it's
none of these were really
just
that
the whole
memorable,
idea.
so.
They decide they want to go on vacation down to Florida. The grandmother says because the misfits
There's a misfit on the loose.
Yep.
And he's some kind of crazy killer, psycho
And
killer.
they went to Tennessee because she thought the misfits were going to Florida, or they escaped
were gonna
from
be
Florida.
on the road, go in their direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just their luck that they ended up crossing paths anyway.
I think they were going to find an old house on the way, and
Yeah, because the grandmother was yammering that
and
she wanted to find this old house, and then she realized that it wasn't even in the state.
And I remember reading
she's looking for.
She realized it wasn't there.
Right.
And she didn't
Well,
have.
she
couldn't
lying about it anyways.
Oh, that's
So,
she was lying about the reason to go to the house. Like she was manipulating the kids.
So that the kids
to
would
get
pester
them all
the parents,
fired up.
and the parents would be like, "Fine, we'll just go."
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, those poor parents too. If that's how the grandmother or mother-in-law or whoever, is like trying to get the kids again, it's like, yeah, I would do that too. I'd be like, fine, we'll just go.
Right.
It can't be your
But
kid's best
with
friend.
the characters, with the grandmother, where she starts out talking about how, I'd never take my family in a direction that misfits at. But then with her little detour, she ends up riding, taking him right into his lap.
Yeah.
And they probably would have missed him if they just stayed on the highway. They wouldn't have had no problem.
And then, of course, the car ended up going into a ditch or something like that. They crashed the car somehow.
Yeah.
And she couldn't find. I think she couldn't mention it. She said something like, I think it's the narration, obviously. Couldn't find it. Didn't want to say it.
Right. She was embarrassed.
She was.
She pretty much instigated
this detour
the people,
to nowhere.
or she instigated the misfit and his henchmen or his people that worked under him to kill the family, kill the men and the women.
It's sad.
And then she ended up just tried to sweet talk him into thinking differently, but that wasn't going to happen.
She just struck me as very selfish and
Mm-hmm.
almost like manipulative.
Yes. All
like
the stuff she brought with her. She had
She didn't do a good job with being manipulative either.
No, it just that basic annoying person that you just like, oh, shut up, you know.
As far as I'm concerned, this is an overrated Flannery O'Connor piece.
Yeah, well, it is the most popular one, or at least the most well-known one, which is why I chose it. You know, of course, it's all about the ending, right? That's where you get a shot at what's really going on there. With a very near call with redemption for the grandmother and for the misfit. They kind of see the humanity in each other, but it's just for a brief moment, and it doesn't last. And obviously, he ends up killing her, but he does seem a little changed by something that they were talking about, right? Of course, they were talking about.
She tried to get him, I think, to repent, or like, hey, it's not too late.
Yeah, you don't have to do this.
Yeah. You don't have to kill me, but you can also.
But it's also that sense. I don't know if I would definitely not be thinking the way she did if my entire family had just been shot and killed.
Yeah, going back to that whole selfish thing.
She is a very selfish person, and I think she lives in her own little world. It's like the whole world revolves around her.
And there are some people that are like that. It's sad. There were some people me.
They should have negotiated a way to get themselves out of the situation and not instigate. It looked like she could have got them out of it, but it just annoyed them even more.
Yeah, well, I don't know if she was going to be able to get them out of it, especially after she opened her mouth. And her mouth got her into all the trouble, and got everybody into trouble that was involved with her.
Well, let's go back a minute. Let's go back. This is just me being silly now. What was her life like when she was a kid? Or when she was, in her 30s, 40s, 50s? You're still a kid, by the way, in your 30s. But I'm saying...
She talked about where she grew up.
Yeah, a lot where she grew up.
But she talks about simpler times and a more tougher... having a more... where kids were more orderly.
Yeah.
However...
Back in my... been very prim and proper,
yeah.
I think.
But
kind of
she's just very... She thinks that it's just this whole idea where you have this sense of ideal, but you need to be able to deliver on it, too.
Yeah.
They have this very hypocritical way of thinking where they think that they're all high and mighty when evidence shows that they're not.
Yeah, and the other thing too, it's just like, how that prim and proper woman compares herself and her parenting style to, I would assume her daughter or her son and the in-law, whoever it is, just like, well, like you said, I wouldn't take my family this way. It's like
meaning.
Yeah, it's not just manipulative, but it's also that way. Like, I mean, I hear people all the time doing it to each other. It's like, well, that's good for you, but I would never give my child white bread, and it's so suggestive.
I love white bread,
and it's just
I love bread.
Rude.
Yeah,
just straight up rude.
Yeah,
right. And it's not only that when she's doing it, because she's not just doing it for that purpose, but also because she wants to change the plans and go somewhere else.
Yeah,
so it's like
she wants to do.
It's double bad.
Yeah.
Right? It's just being manipulative and what do you call that, hoity-toity or whatever at the same time. Is that the technical term?
I guess so.
I say it is
and that's
now.
a technical word. If hoity-toity is a technical word, then
let's
yay.
Alrighty.
Then I can say fudge as long as I want.
Does anybody have anything that they wanted to add?
Yeah, just that at the end, I wanted to just kind of finish that, and I think what's happening there is just a little bit of grace is getting through, right? Like, I think what O'Connor does with a lot of this literature is to paint these characters where there is no religion, no God, no grace. Just to give it just a little bit at the end, right? Just to show how moving it can be, where this guy's been running around his whole life, killing people, committing crimes, not sure when he started or how he started. He's just a monstrous human being. But this woman shows him a little bit human connection, and it shakes him. It shakes him. That there's still that underlying humanity that can be accessed. So I think there's hope in that, even though in this particular situation, it didn't work out well. It's always right at the surface.
At least it was there.
The miracle, Jesus raising the dead, where he he was not going to dismiss it just yet.
No, he's like, if it's true, then there's nothing in the world to do but drop everything and follow him. But if it's not true, then there's nothing in the world to do but whatever the hell you want.
It really only stuck with him so much because
he ended up going ahead with.
Yeah, that, and he just, the whole idea at the very end, and I quote, when
good.
Bobby Lee was saying, oh, she's a talker, wasn't she? And he said, she would have been a good woman if it had been somebody there to shoot her every minute of her life.
Yeah, I don't think he's joking. I think that's probably getting at some kind of truth, man, because it took that to kind of shake that little bit of oh, wait a minute, I'm not the only person in the world, right? Like, when there's a guy in a gun, I think you'd be pretty aware of the fact, in the same room as you, you're pretty aware of the fact that you're not the only person that matters at that point. And it's that kind of a situation where in her case, she's able to just, again, for a moment, just see another person for somebody other than what's going to give her what she wants. You know, she's like...
Human to human.
Right. As opposed to,
human to
what can I get out of you?
As opposed to monster to
for
monster.
myself,
I mean, and I'm also starting to think that last line, I'm thinking maybe he started to regret what he just did. I mean, you can't just...
I don't know about
I mean, I'm just saying, it is possible. I doubt it, but there are times where people have done something and they regret it immediately.
He seemed to have his moment of thought before he did it.
Yeah, and of course that does come...
He's still hit, though. He's still hit, right? Like, I mean, he's got to take off his glasses and dry them because of the fact that he got bleary-eyed. Like, it's not something that you're just going to forget about, right? He had something happen there. Somebody actually looking at him as a baby, as someone who was once a baby and could be one of her own family. It's a powerful thing. If you think about this guy, probably his whole life nobody's ever said two kind words to him.
Probably been treated like garbage. Probably had, who knows, he probably had a great life, went to prison for a minor offense, and of course, like I said, prison changes people. I'm not going to go down that tunnel, but...
It's real unclear.
Maybe she would have been better off changing families.
And I think it's supposed to be that way, though.
Yeah, of course.
Keep it unclear, because then you don't have to really explain why he's killing a family.
And when you do kill somebody, there's 9 times out of 10 you pretty much know what you're doing, and it's and he had that clear moment. I don't have to do this,
but he chose to.
But there's also, I read a lot of psychology crap and a lot of legal stuff, and just for fun. But I also found out a lot of criminals find out once they're, of course, it's once they're in prison, but they're back in like solitary. They say to themselves, I don't think I should have done what I did. I should not have hit that person with my car because I was mad at them, for an example. But I've read,
remorse is a thing that people go to. But the story ends where it does is mostly because it's not his story; it's her story, which I guess is just kind of another way of how she's selfish. And maybe the narrator's just doing, or not the narrator, but O'Connor or Flannery O'Connor.
Whoever the narrator
is making that point. It's like, here's the selfish woman, and of course the story is about her.
Of course.
So.
Yeah, but I mean, like, those things can happen, right? Like where you are transformed by a kind gesture or something like that. At that point, it's up to the person to pick up after that and say, okay, well, then I got to start living a different life.
Yeah. Or at least.
But that's not what this story is about. This story is just about the moment. It's just about the one moment that can change somebody's life. Yeah. Because how many might you have missed? You might have had other ones, and they're not taking advantage of them. Yeah. Or other people do all the time, right? Where somebody does something for them and they still act like assholes.
Well, we shouldn't say that on camera, but yes, you're right. I
think it's just about that moment of grace that shines through.
And that little bit of light
is able to make an impact. However slight.
If you're interested in checking out the complete stories of Flannery O'Connor, here is my copy. It is a National Book Award winner.
Yeah, that collection there.
Yes.
That's a beautiful book, too. I got this online because I was going to find the book. My local library had it, and then it was on order, and then I couldn't. So I went online and hacked the internet.
And if you like what you see, please support our channel on Patreon, for the money that we make will help us to provide you, the viewer, with even more content. Thank you, and for now, keep reading. Hi there, this is Josh, and on the next episode of Literary Gladiators, Larry, Jesse, Charlie, and I will be discussing Benediction for the Savior of Orlando by Campbell McGrath. If you like what you see on our channel, please support us on our Patreon, for the money that we make will help us provide you, the viewer, with even more content. Thank you, and for now, keep reading.